Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my tiny corner of YouTube. My name is the Modest Aesthete, and here on my channel we do cashless cash stuffing videos using a zero-based budgeting method. As promised, today I'm going to show you all how to make your very own DIY custom cash envelopes using affordable items that most of us have in the home or what we could easily source for very reasonable prices. If you're interested in sticking around and learning how to make them yourself, let's get started. We're going to have a lot of fun. Alrighty, I'm super excited for today's video. First off though, I just wanted to thank everybody who supported me with my first video that I uploaded last week. I was so overwhelmed and blown away with all of the love and support that I received both on YouTube and Instagram. Really appreciate it. It was a bit nerve-wracking putting up my first video, but I mean, you can see from the length of it, I obviously enjoyed myself because I went for a good hour. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody who liked, subscribed, and commented. Mwah! You guys are the best. Couldn't say thank you enough for showing me all that love. Today's going to be less rambly though, because we've got a lot to do. So what I'm going to be showing you guys today is how to make your very own DIY custom cash envelopes. Now, this is mainly for people who have the materials at home or are willing to spend a little bit of money to get the materials you make to make how many ever custom envelopes you want to make. I'm going to try show you the most cost-effective way to do it as well. I'm all for not spending too much money if I can, so I'm going to show you how to make 6-ring binder hole punches with a single hole puncher. I'm going to be going through prices that I've paid for the items that I've got, as cost effective as possible. So this is an example of the sort of envelope that we're going to make today. My personal preference for my custom DIY envelopes is I use the A6 with the 6 holes, and I like to use matte laminating paper with transparent vellum paper so that I can see the cash as I put it in, and as you flick through you can see what cash is in there. Now, the methods that I'm going to show you, you will be able to use any font that's available on the program. We are going to be using the free to use one, but you can also use a subscription to get access to more fonts. And just give me a second, I'm going to go turn off my ducted heating because that's just turned on and it's really loud. I'll be back in a second. Ugh, I'm a little bit annoyed. Every time I go to film, it's lovely and sunny, the light's really good, and then as soon as I hit record, it starts to get cloudy outside and there's shadows everywhere. I don't like it, but it is what it is. I haven't got any other time to film this. I gotta work the rest of the week. What was I saying? Yeah, so this is the style of envelope that we're going to be making today. So I'm going to show you the step-by-step process. Super excited. I think it's great to be able to make it yourself. But in saying that, I also think it's really important to support all of the small businesses that are making these envelopes as well. So whatever you choose to do, I think it's fantastic. I like to make things myself though, so that's why I chose to make my own envelopes. Now, to get started, first things first, you're going to need a computer or a laptop of some sort, and you're going to need access to the internet and an email address, and that's to use the program that I'm going to show you. The second most important thing you're going to need is a printer. Any type of printer will do, as long as it can print, obviously. I will discuss my tricks for using my certain printer because I imagine that that's a printer that most of us at home will use if we don't have access to an office printer or a big industrial printer. So I'll put in a clip of that particular, the tricks that I use with my printer to avoid any wastage, because this stuff can be a little bit pricey if you're wasting too much of it. The next thing you're going to need is going to be a paper cutter. Sorry about that, yuck. Not so much a guillotine. If you don't have a guillotine, one of these paper cutters will be more than sufficient. I got this one from Kmart. It was only $11, $12. This one's good because you can expand it so that you can do big sheets of paper. Don't make the mistake that I did. I ordered what I thought was going to be one of those knife guillotine ones off Amazon, and it was only $15 at the time, and that should have been the flag to me. And in hindsight, I probably should have read the reviews as well. But I kid you not, when it arrived, it was literally the size of one of these books, and I could not do anything with it. It was the biggest waste of money. So honestly, whatever works for you, if you find one of these in a craft shop, or you can clearly see the dimensions when you order it online, get a big one, because you want to be able to maneuver as best as you can. Don't get one of those little tiny ones that I've made. Probably only be good for business cards or something. Next thing you're going to need is a laminator. Now, laminators, thankfully, depending on where you get them from, they can be very affordable. I got this laminator last year on clearance from Aldi, and I think I paid only $12 for it. But like I said in my video last week, they're actually selling them at the moment for $20, these really nice, sleek black ones. And they've probably been out for 2 weeks now, so if your local Aldi still has them in stock, it's very likely that they're going to go on clearance soon, and probably only for $10. Otherwise, you can get these at Kmart for $20, Big W, any of those stores in Australia anyway, for very reasonable $20. So laminator is really important. And the best thing about having a laminator yourself is as well that if your envelopes start to split, which sometimes they do after extended use, you can just run them through the laminator again and they almost look brand new. So that's a good reason to have your own laminator if you're going to be using DIY cash envelopes. So I highly recommend those. Then you're going to need the paper that you're going to be using. So I prefer to use A4 size vellum paper. Where you buy them from, it isn't really a big issue. When I first started making my envelopes, I literally bought pads of tracing paper from Kmart, and they had 20 sheets of what was vellum paper inside for only $3. So I got 20 sheets for $3, and I thought that was a really fantastic price. And they worked really, really well, because essentially vellum paper is like baking paper, tracing paper. It's translucent, so anything that you print on it, you can see through whatever's behind it. So they're really popular when it comes to wedding invitations or all of those nice crafty things that you want to look elegant and sophisticated. Vellum paper, best for it. You can also use any paper really, as long as it fits in your printer. You can use metallic paper, pearlized paper, cardstock. You can get vellum paper that's actually got patterns in it, which is really nice as well. They can be a little bit pricey, but that's your decision if you want to personalize it up a little bit more. So vellum paper is what we use to make these ones. And then laminating sheets. Now the laminating sheets, what you buy will depend on the micron or the size of your laminator and the effect that you want. So regular glossy laminating paper that you can get from Kmart, Aldi has them at the moment now too. Anywhere that sells stationery, very reasonably priced. And it's glossy. So if you want the glossy look, it's really good because it feels a bit more sturdy. And it looks just as nice. I personally prefer the matte laminating paper because I like that frosted matte look, because I think it just looks really nice and elegant and minimalistic. I think it looks lovely. Matte laminating paper does cost more than the glossy one. when I first started making my envelopes, I would get a set of 50 laminating pouches from from Officeworks. I think I paid $40 for it. So it was a little bit pricey. And at the time, I happened to actually buy the wrong micron as well. So every time I put it through my laminator actually ate it, and I would have to take apart the laminator to fish out the laminating pouch because it had literally curled in on the wheels as they were going through. And I wasted so much money on that. In hindsight, I wish that I had gone for this particular type that I've got in here. This particular type that I've got in here is the A5 size laminating pouches, and I personally prefer to laminate with A5 because I do one envelope per pouch, and it gives me a little bit more room to maneuver when it comes to cutting up my envelopes. Because when I did the A4, you could do 3 at once, but I found that it didn't always sit right, and long story anyway. So I prefer to do it with the A5. This I got from Amazon. I think I got these on sale. I think I paid $25 for it, and that was with Amazon Prime free shipping. So $25. I thought that was quite much more affordable than the other one. I've already done the paper cutter. Now, when it comes to hole punching, not all of us have access to like a 6-hole puncher. This one I actually stole off my sister-in-law because she used to do crafts and she doesn't anymore. But she said that this thing was really expensive. She didn't say how much it was. She bought it last year. But I looked them up myself, and these were like $60, $70 on Amazon or just on eBay. That's really, really expensive. Not all of us have that sort of money to throw around on just a hole puncher to make cash envelopes. So the other thing that you can use instead is one of these single hole punches. I'm actually going to show you how to do a 6-hole punch with one of these things. These ones you can get at Kmart or anywhere really for $1, $2, $3, $4. Very, very cheap. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And then if you really want to make your envelopes look finished, you can use one of these things. This is a corner hole punch. And this is what you can use when your product is almost finished on the corners to make it look round. And I'll show you these things in action. This is one of the first ones I got. I got this off Shein when I was first ordering my rose gold binders, and this was $2. And it worked really, really well. I was really, really happy with it. But when I was buying my laminating pouches on Amazon, I came across this one, and I thought this one was fantastic because it's got small, medium, and large size rounded edges. This thing was $12, which I thought was quite reasonably priced because I use it so much. Again, this is not something that you need to use, nor is this one. The straight edges look just as nice, but if you just want to give it that little bit more refinement and make it look that extra bit extra, these things are really good to have. So the first thing that you're going to need is a computer with internet access and an email. You can't use this system without internet access or without an email because you're going to have to log in and make an account. So the program that I use is called Canva, easily found during whichever search engine. Here it is. It's an online graphic design platform. Now you can use it for free, and you can get most of the things that you need to make cash envelopes for free, but you can also pay a prescription as well, which is really worth it if you want to access the designer fonts and stuff. I personally don't pay for it, but at some point I might if I decide I want to venture out and shake up some of my fonts a little bit. So yeah, you just click on it through Google, very easy to find. Now I've already logged in, but if you don't have an account, you do need to make an account to use this. So you would go up here, log in, put in your password, send through a verification code, Bob's your uncle, you're done. Now the one that I like to use is, so I don't use any of the pre-done templates. I like to make my own custom size. And I can't remember where I got these dimensions from. I think I was actually guided by another person on YouTube who used these dimensions, and they worked really well for me. So the size of the document that I am going to make will be in inches, and I am going to do 8.5 inches in width, and in height I'm going to do 11 inches. Oh, so there we go. That's planner size right there, which is A6 size. So that's very handy, actually. Alrighty, so we're going to go create new design. Again, Bob's your uncle. This is what we're going to be working with. Now, this is supposed to be the size of a planner. Now, when I save it, it will actually save as an A6. Sorry, an A4, and I will be able to print it as an A4, which works out really well. But this is supposed to generate an A6 size, but we're going to work with it as if it's a piece of A4. Alrighty, so first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here to elements, and we're going to choose this line under lines and shapes. The reason why we're going to be doing the line is it's going to give us an outline for our envelopes, and it's a bit of a guide for where to fold and where to cut. I've tried to do this without the lines. All of my envelopes were uneven. The font wasn't centered. This is by far the easiest method. So if you want the best results and consistent, you definitely want to do the outline for this. Now that line is too dark and too thick for what I want, so we're going to change that, and we're going to go up here to line style, and we're going to bring that line weight down to 1 where it's nice and thin. I also don't like how dark that is, so we're going to go up here to transparency, and we're going to bring the transparency down to 10. I want this transparent enough that it's visible, but I also want it see-through enough that when I cut it, if I don't cut it exactly and a little bit of it is still showing, it's inconspicuous. It isn't going to change how good the envelope looks. So nice and transparent is how we want it. Now we're going to make the outline of the cash envelope. First off, we're going to do the length. Now this tool is really handy. It would actually let you measure exactly how long that you want your line to be. So I actually want a line that's going to be 6.8 inches, because we chose to do this document in inches, so I'm going to do 6.8 inches. So this is currently 5, as you can see. It comes up as you're doing it. I'm going to take it all the way up to 6.8. And if you're picturing that that's going to be an A4 document, you can see that that is the size, width-wise, of an A6 piece of paper. So that's a bit of a visual representation there. So that's going to be the width of my envelope. And now I'm going to do the length of my envelope. So again, we're going to do the same lines and shapes up here. Again, I want that to be nice and thin, and I want that to be transparent. Now, because this is going to be the height of my envelope, we're actually going to flip this around. So we've got this little arrow thing here that allows us to turn it, and it's going to tell you to go which degree you're doing it. And we want 90 degrees because we want it to be nice and even. This arrow here allows you to move it around, which is super handy. Now this particular one I want to only be 3.7. So use your little measurement guide up here. Although 3.7 might be a little bit tight. It's not going to let me do 3.7 today. Alright, let's just do 3.8. Or, no, let's do 3.6. Let's do 3.6. And then we're going to move that to lock it into place here. As you can see, when it turns red, it's actually guiding you within the borders of the document that you're doing, and it's going to tell you whether things are centered or not, which is super handy. That's what you want. Now this, it doesn't look quite straight, does it? 90 degree angle. Okay, apparently that is straight. It just looked off to me for some reason. Now we're going to make a copy of this. Easiest way is Control C and then Control V, oops, Control Z, sorry. Oh, hold on. I got a little bit of performance amnesia. What is it? Control C, Control V, there we are. And then we're going to move this across and lock this into place in the other side. And same down here. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste and bring this up to here. That right there is the dimensions of our A6 envelope. So that's going to give us a guide of where to cut, and here is going to give us a guide of where to fold. Now, that's sufficient if you are only going to print on one side. For the purposes of today, I'm actually going to print something on the back here with my YouTube name. So I'm actually going to go further and make another copy of this and bring this down here and make another one, bring that, pop that into place there, copy this and bring it down into place here, so that as you can see when I fold it, I'm going to get both dimensions, both sides, I guess you could say. Now we're just going to zoom in a little bit down here because that looks like it's off. Yes, I was right. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. As you can see, that's not even, and we want that to be even. So I'm going to bring that across here. As you can see, it's telling us now that everything is even on that side, but not even quite here. So we're going to bring this here, and as you can see, the red is telling us that that's lining up. Fantastic. This particular line here is not lining up though. It's got to be perfect. I always say do it perfect the first time, you don't have to go back and do it again. And you can use these as a guide to help you. That's a bit better. I'm going to zoom back out now. Oops, that's too far. 75. Alrighty. So this is going to be the outsides of our envelope, and this middle part here is going to be where we're going to fold. Now, when you want to do the text, you have an assortment of texts to choose from, each to your own style. Due to the sheer number of cash envelope stuffers that are out there, it can be difficult to make one that's going to look unique to you, and unfortunately I think that's just the way that it's kind of like saturated market, you know. There's so many people doing it. If you choose from standard fonts, it's very likely that you're going to have a font that's similar to someone else, and your envelopes are going to look similar to somebody else's. But you can fiddle around with it and make it as unique as you want it to be, just depending on what your preferences are, what you're limited to with the free version of this program, and you know, what fonts tickle your fancy. I personally like to make my fonts match the stationery and planner inserts that I buy from an online stationery company. So I choose my fonts to match because I like everything uniform. So to put in your texts, you're going to go up here to text, and you're going to go to add a text box. So it's going to come up here with your paragraph text. Now, do whatever size you want. If you like it big, you like it little, it's entirely up to you what you prefer. The best thing I think about this program is that it will tell you when you're moving things around whether it's going to be centered, whether it's going to be off. As you can see here, if I move this into the middle here, that's telling me that it is centered on both sides of this box that I've made here, which is exactly what I want. So I want it right smack bang in the middle. I like it even. Up here under fonts is going to be where you get to choose your fonts. You've got so many things to choose from. Anything with these little crowns next to it is under Canva Pro, and that's where you're going to have to pay for it. But anything that doesn't have it and is available in bold and dark is what you've got access to. So there's so many things to choose from. My favorite one to choose from, let me scroll down. If I type it in, I think it's called Joseph. Here we are. Joseph Sans Regular. This is my favorite font that I like to use, again, to match all of my planner inserts and my stationery. And I like to choose I think I prefer to do my size in 15 because I like it small and minimal. So this has already been centered, and it'll automatically center again as you reduce or up the size, which is very handy. And then you're just going to type in what font, what category you want. So I'm going to do one for the Modest Aesthete. I thought I'd just make one for my YouTube and Instagram. Not that I'm probably going to put anything in it, but anyway. As you can see, that is centered to these boxes here. And I think that looks great. You can insert another text box down here if you want to put, like, you know, YouTube earnings, stationery. If you want to put extra things on here to say, you know, this is what's going to go in here, you can do whatever you want. You can add pictures. There's elements up here. You can add photos. You can add your own photos. Honestly, the sky's your limit in this, depending on whether you've got access to certain things. You can do whatever you want to personalize it. I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of that. And on the back here, because this is where it's going to fold, I actually want to put down here the Modest Aesthete again. So I'm going to go back up to text, and I'm going to add a text box again. I'm actually going to reduce this size all the way down to 5 because I want it nice and little, kind of like a little logo. I'm going to type in the Modest Aesthete again, and I might just zoom in to make sure I spelt that right. Yes, I did. And then, because I want it to kind of be like a logo of sorts, I'm going to go to text color up here, and I'm going to choose this lighter font. Or I might choose this font here. So as you can see, that makes it lighter. I'd actually like to go a little bit more lighter than that. So as you can see, that's nice and light. Now I'm going to move this over to this side, and because it's going to be folded and a mirror image, I actually want to flip this upside down to negative 180 degrees as it said, and we'll make sure that it's centered, which it is. And then you can see, so that's going to be the outline of my envelope, and this is going to be where I'm going to cut, and this is where I'm going to fold. Now, if that's all you want, that's pretty much ready to go. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is export it out of the program onto your desktop, onto your laptop, and then you're going to print it. So in order to do that, you're going to go up here to share, and I mean, you can share this design with other people, which is handy. You can copy the link and send it to other people. You can share on your socials, print your design. I haven't actually tried this one. Oh, let's see. Oh, that's pretty cool. You can make letterheads, anything you want. This program is really, really good. I'm so glad it's free. But back to what I was saying, we're going to download this. And when you download it, you can choose other options, which I'm not going to put. I'm happy for it to be saved under a PNG. I'm going to go download. As you can see, it downloads, and when it's downloaded, it'll go to wherever your downloads go to. So check your downloads folder. I'm going to go to open file, and there we go. That is ready to print. The other way of printing it is to go into the file that it's saved in. I like to right click again and go to print. This is the method that I prefer to do because then I can see where it's going, A4 size. Here is what I was saying about the best draft and normal quality, plain paper, and then you can choose, you know, how you want it printed. Personally, I prefer full page photo, and as you can see, that's going to print nice in the middle and to size. So you press print, Bob's your uncle, there you go, it's ready to go. Now when it comes to these DIY custom envelopes, printing them on the vellum paper, you can pretty much do it with any printer that you've got. Thankfully, most of us will probably have an inkjet at home, such as my printer here, which is an inkjet, because they tend to be the most affordable ones at the market that you can buy. LaserJet is probably the best ones to use because the ink on those dry almost instantaneous, but they can be very pricey. So unless you work in an office or you run a home business, you're probably not as likely to have a LaserJet, but an inkjet will work just as well. Now with the inkjet, I found that the best way for this to go smoothly is to put the vellum paper in once at a time. I made the mistake many times of receiving my stack of vellum paper all together and putting it all in at once, and every time my printer sucked it through to print, it would jam. You can imagine a whole heap of vellum paper jamming in the printer is expensive and it wrecks your printer. So I would personally do it one at a time, and that way you can make sure that if there is some jamming, because of the thickness of the paper, sometimes it does happen, it's easy for you to fish out compared to a whole stack of paper. So that's what I would recommend. The other thing with the inkjet printer is that it takes longer to dry. I would recommend at least waiting 12 to 24 hours after printing for you to start laminating, just because, especially if you're going to be using best quality, which I would recommend when you're printing, the ink goes on thick and it takes a long time to dry. If you don't allow it to dry, you can smudge it while you're folding and cutting, and it will also bleed as well, especially when you run it through the laminator. So for best printing quality, print it one at a time, print it on best quality, and allow it to dry if you're using an inkjet. Alrighty, so here's the envelope that I put through the printer. As you can see, very faintly you can see the outline of the outside of the envelope, and that's the parts that we're going to cut, and you can also see a line down the middle here, which is where we're going to fold. So give it ample time to dry, make sure that it has dried. I'm just going to double check because I printed that off this morning. There's a little bit coming off on my finger, but that'll be, it's more than dry enough for us to work with. If I stuff it up, I'll make another one. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to fold this piece of vellum up against the line. So you've got to look really closely and be confident in your folding, because you want to make sure that you're folding it exactly on that line. If you go too far up or you miss by a little bit, it's not a big deal, because we've done the line that we're folding so faintly. It's not really going to be a big deal at all when you fold it, if you don't fold it right on the line. So I like to run over it a few times, because I find that the folded it is, the better that it goes through the laminator afterwards. So I do this a few times just to make sure that it has, and that's going to give you both sides of your cash envelope sheet. And I think that that looks pretty chic. Alrighty, so that's been folded. You can see on here the lines that have gone through. They're nice and clear, so that we can put those through the cutter. Alrighty, so this is the cutter that we have from Kmart. Personal preference which side you flip it. I personally prefer to do it this way. And then we're going to move it in so that our little grey lines are flush with the little groove in the cutter. So when you can see that your thin lines are flush with the cutter, you can just slice away. Hold it in place though, because these pieces of vellum paper are actually quite flimsy. So if you don't hold it in place, it's not going to cut very well. So there, as you can see, we've cut along the line nice and flush. So we're going to do the same for this side. Again, put it in. Really important to do this in a well-lit room, or have a table lamp on with you so that you can see exactly where you're cutting. And again, hold it down and slice. So that is really nicely cut on both sides, as you can see. And it's the same on the other side as well. Now when it comes to the top, I like to leave just a little bit of space for when it comes to laminating, because that way I can slice it and not sacrifice any of the actual envelope size. So I'm maybe going to leave 1 centimetre on top of the top line, which we can take off later when we actually laminate it. So again, hold it down really well and slice. Oh gosh, I love the sound of paper cutters going through vellum paper. I could listen to that all day. Yeah, so as you can see, we've still got the line up here, and it's cut really nicely on both sides, and that's a really nice A6 size. Really, really important to get a good quality sharp one. If you get a blunt one, your vellum paper is not going to cut, or it's going to cut with a teared look, or yeah, you need to have a sharp one for the best results and for it to look the best quality as well. Alrighty, now time to turn on the laminator. Nice and hot is the way to go when it comes to the laminator. So don't get all excited and start trying to stick your envelopes through too early. You want it nice and hot so that you don't have to put it through too many times. Otherwise you're going to have bubbles, or it's not going to laminate properly. So give it a good 2 or so minutes to warm up. In the meantime, you can get out your matte laminating pouches. Oh, this is a nice brand new one. Sorry about the shaking camera. So how many did I have in here? This has got 100 pieces. So I know at some point I'm probably going to change the look of how my envelopes look. So I came prepared. I bought plenty of them. So just pull out a sheet. Glossy, matte, doesn't matter what type you have, or what size you have. Now, got to find the end, which is here. Oh, that was fresh. That was satisfying. Alrighty. Now, were this an A4 size, you would be able to do 2 envelopes up the top, and you could, if you really wanted to save on your laminating sheets, you could also do one on the side like that. I found that personally too cumbersome, which is why I prefer the A5 size of the laminating sheets. So the way I do it, I mean, I've seen people who go right up to the end, which is a good way to do it. I personally prefer to put it right in the middle because I like to have a certain size around the outside edges of my envelopes. I don't like to leave the edges too thin because I find that separates more. So try get it as straight as you can. It will make it cutting it later a lot easier. If you have it crooked, it's just you're gonna have to compensate for having it straight, and it's a real headache, honestly. If you do it as straight as you can through the pouch the first time, that's the better part to do it. Save yourself time. I'm all for saving time, especially if you've got kids. Now our laminator's still warming up, so we're just going to wait for that to warm up. Alrighty, so the laminator's actually feeling nice and warm right now. Now follow the directions on your laminator. I don't know if all are the same. This particular one that I've got, you literally just feed it through, it sucks it in. I tend to hold it as it goes. I found that if you don't hold it and it kind of just flops out the other side, that it tends to bend, and I don't really like that. So as it comes through both sides, I like to support it like baby. So let it go through. Like I said, as hot as possible is best. When I do it, I like to run it through in every direction. So first you've got to put it through this way, in the way that the pouch is designed, just so that it seals the first time. But once you've got it sealed the first time, you can pretty much put it through in any direction without it getting tangled and caught inside the laminator. So I like to put it through in every direction, and also just because I find it satisfying. I love watching doing it like this. I think I've got a daisy hair laminated in there. Oops, a daisy. Oh well, I don't mind, it's cute. So like I said, I'm going to do it in every direction. Luckily this laminator doesn't smell, or it might be the laminating pouches, I don't know, because sometimes the smell of the laminator can be really off-putting. But I guess it depends on what brand you get and what type of matte laminating paper you use, and how hot it is maybe as well. Alrighty, we've almost put it through in every direction. You don't have to do this. This is just me being thorough. I don't know if this is a necessary step or not, but I do it in every direction. I figured it can't hurt, honestly. Unless, of course, it gets stuck. Oh, look at that. So smooth. Alrighty, so now we can turn off the laminator. Obviously, if you were doing a whole heap of envelopes at once, you would keep that laminator on and just do it through like a production line. That would be the most efficient way to do it. Don't just turn it off and turn it on between every envelope. Now these actually cool down really quickly. Make sure it's cool before you start manipulating it, because if you manipulate it while it's warm, it's going to get stuck in whatever shape you've got it in. So we want to keep it nice and flat until it cools down, which it has. So we can start cutting it now already. So I've got my cutter back. Now, like I said before, I like to keep a certain amount of trim on these envelopes, just because I find that if you do it too thin, it's going to separate, and we want these to last for as long as possible. Now on the sides here, I like to do 1/2 centimeter, which is probably a bit much, but that's my own personal preference. I reckon you could probably go up to 2 millimeters without it separating, but that's all personal preference. So I personally prefer to do 1/2 centimeter on each side. Now, the only thing about this particular one that I've got from Kmart is it is hard to see where the 1/2 centimeter starts. But I do have my old paper cutter, which I'm actually going to use instead, just because on that one I can't really see it, particularly in this lighting where I'm filming, but you can do it on that one. Here it's much more clearer where the 1/2 centimeter starts. So I'm just going to line that up and I'm going to slice. And see, there we are. That came out really nice. On this particular one, yeah, this thing that is holding it in place, it's very bulky and the numbers aren't very clear. So that's something that you will have to decide whether that's suitable for you or not. Luckily I had this one here, because I don't think I could probably do that accurately on that one. And another 1/2 centimeter on this side. And chop. Oh, that just glides through. Man, that soothes my soul. It is so satisfying. Although I did not cut that evenly. Ugh. So I'm going to go through back and just chop that again. The only bad thing about these particular ones is that if you don't have it perfect, it won't always cut perfect. See, I've already butchered that. So I'm going to go back and do it thin on this side too, just so it matches. Because I didn't do it evenly the first time. So yeah, I would do 0.5 of a centimeter, but honestly, it's personal preference. See, that still looks good and that will still work fine. That's probably what? 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, and that will still hold, so that'll still work fine. On this side, which is the part that's going to go into the binder, I prefer to put a little bit more space just to make it so that I've got room to hole punch. So when it comes to this side, I like to do 1.5 centimeters. So I'll line that up to 1.5, hold it down, and then I will slice, and that will glide. And so that gives me space to put it into my hole puncher, or for you to do your manual punching if that's what you have to do. And then up the top here, we've still got the line that remains from when we printed it, and that's what we're going to line up. Oh, you know what, let's swap back to the other one, because that's the one that I started with. So we're going to line that up in the groove where the blade is going to go through, and then we are going to slice, and that is so satisfying because it's cutting through the paper. Alright. Gosh, I'm all about the ASMR. Alrighty, and as you can see, by cutting that part there, it opens it up, and this is where you're going to be able to put your cash. So you can just slide that in. That's how I found it the easiest way. I have seen methods where people won't fold it. They'll actually cut the backside into shape, the same dimensions as the front of the envelope, and then put them together in the laminator. And so they don't have to cut it up the top to release the envelope as such. But I found that method to be quite... if you just so much as shook the laminating pouch as it was starting to go through and that piece of paper at the back slid, it wouldn't make the perfect pouch. So I personally prefer the folding method, which is what I'm showing you here. So as you can see, that's made pretty much your whole envelope. All that we need to go through now is a hole puncher, and if we want to, we can do the dimensions on the sides as well. So I'm going to move that out of the way. Obviously, if you're doing a production line, smash it all out at once. Once you get the momentum, you just keep going and you get it really perfect. The more you do, it ends up just being like autopilot, and it comes out really good if you do them all at once. Next up, we're going to hole punch. So this is the one that I use. Like I said, it is pricey. This particular one is good because you can do multiple sizes. Oops, it just snowed. It just snowed the hole punching bits. I'm going to move that to the side. I don't know if you can see very clearly on here, but you can actually choose what sizes that you're going to do on this particular one. And in here, you can move the hole punches to sit in place of where you need to do, like A5, A4, pocket mini, A7, personal. You can literally move it, and that's why this one is so expensive. And so this, if you were just doing a 6-hole puncher, literally all you would do is slide it in, press it, it spits it out nice and even, good to go. But not all of us can afford to spend $60 on a hole puncher, so I'm going to show you the method with this one. Now, what you're going to need for this one is either a steady hand or paper clips. I'm going to use these magnetic paper clips because I don't like the indentation that regular paper clips will put onto my envelope when I do this method. When you get your binder, it's very likely your binder is going to come with inserts that already have these holes. So you want to get one of these because this is going to be your template of where you're going to put the hole puncher. This one, I think, where did I get it from? I got it from Kmart. I'm pretty sure it was $1 or thereabouts. Very cheap. When you get it, I've kind of manipulated this one a little bit. When you get it, it looks like this. I have moved this part down. You can actually move this part off as well. Honestly, all it is just to catch the trimmings that come through. But we need to see that visual field there of where the hole puncher is going to sit. So I personally prefer to move this backwards, and that gives me a very easy visual field of where I'm going to punch when you slip it in and punch it. So I've got my template, I guess you could call it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my magnetic paper clips to hold it in place so that it doesn't move as I'm punching it. There's nothing worse than when it moves and then it's uneven and it just looks terrible. So as you can see, I have lined that up perfectly with the A6 size, and this is going to give me the template of where I'm going to put the single hole punch and pop it through. Now, you've got to have a little bit of a play with it to see what goes where. As you can see, by releasing this, I can see where the hole is going to sit here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up with the hole here, the template, I guess you could say. You can't really see it, but you can see it here if I angle it like that. So here you can see that the hole isn't there, and when I put it there, you can see that it lines up perfectly. And that is where we're going to manually punch. So just make sure you've got a steady hand, you're ready to go, and give it a good grip. And there you go. You got your hole. There we go. Look at that. That came out perfectly. And you honestly cannot tell that you've had to use a single hole puncher for that. That came out perfectly. You don't need to fork out $60 for a hole puncher, $2, and that's it. I will say, if you're going to do this method, take regular breaks in between because you're constantly doing this gripping action. I would not do multiple envelopes at once because you want to protect your wrist. So please don't go smashing out 50 envelopes in one night doing it this method. Just do a few at a time just to save your wrist. But that method works really well for that. And then if you want to go that extra step further and cut rounded edges on the envelope, you can do that. Like I said, I got this one from Shein for $2. It worked really well, but I found that I preferred the other one that I've got. This worked in a pinch, and it's really affordable. I think it was not $2 off Shein, but I personally prefer this beast that I got off Amazon. I tend to do the medium size, although probably when I make my next set of envelopes, I might go for the small size. And you got the large size here as well, which is really good for when you're doing A4 cardstock and things like that. So really simple, literally on every side. You just put the corner in on this one, or if you're going to do it on this one, just line the corner in and punch. So I'm going to go for the medium, line it in, make sure it lines in and punch. And line it in and punch. And as you can see, that has come out really nicely on the edges, and it just looks elegant. And there you go, that's the finished envelope. So I like to just check it on all sides to make sure that it's perfect. I mean, it's got a daisy hair stuck in there. You can't really get more perfect than that. But that is essentially how you make your very own custom cash envelopes. Alrighty, I hope this video has helped you guys learn how to make your own envelopes. Now look, you probably are going to make a few whoopsies when you first make it, and sometimes it's probably not going to come through as perfect as you would like it, but the more that you do, the more that you're going to get better at it. It's going to become like a production line, and you're going to start making them, smashing them out, and they're going to look fantastic. And you'll be able to look at them and you'll be like, I made this, which is fantastic. I mean, I don't know about others, but I get a real kick when I've made something myself, like my wedding. I DIY'd everything, and just walking into the venue that night and seeing everything that I made myself, I was like, I did that. I didn't have to pay anyone to do that. I did that. It's the same kind of feeling with these ones. So yeah, I honestly hope that watching this video has help you build the confidence into making these envelopes yourself, and they turn out great. I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. Alrighty, thank you guys for joining me. I hope that this video has really helped, and I'm hoping that you'll stick around and join me on future videos, and hopefully we'll continue to have fun on my little tiny corner of YouTube. Alright, thanks guys.